Support comes from the Rosa Parks Museum on Troy University's Montgomery campus. Located on the spot of Mrs. Parks' historic 1955 arrest and featuring exhibits that chronicle the history of the Montgomery bus boycott. More information at troy.edu/Rosa Parks.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. Author Marianne Weber knew Truman Capote and Nelle Harper Lee when she lived in Monroeville, Alabama. Capote became famous for his book In Cold Blood, and Marianne wrote a play about his trip with Harper Lee to Kansas to interview the murderers who were subjects of the book. She joins us today as the Wetumpka Depot Players prepare to bring her story, traveling with Truman and Nelle, to the stage. Marianne Weber, welcome to Troy Public Radio.
You're so kind, Carolyn. I'm delighted you want to know more about my play, Traveling with Truman and Nelle.
Marianne, you're a well-known Alabama playwright and author, and we recently talked with Tom Salter, the director of your current play, about Truman Capote and Nelle Harper Lee. How did you get interested in their story?
Well, I lived in Monroeville about the time Nelle Harper Lee's book was being published. She was not well known at that time. And Capote had several novels out. They were waiting on the release of Breakfast at Tiffany's in a film. And the two of them, I sort of started following their careers vicariously. And when I found that Truman Capote was going to Holcomb, Kansas, to interview some murderers of a slain family out there, he asked Nelle if she would drive along with him and take notes. I guess he figured that if you know anything about Truman, he was not going to get anywhere with some of the people that were a lot more conservative and not used to looking at somebody that looked and sounded like him. So the two went along and spent several weeks out there and got all the information they needed to at least start on the book of In Cold Blood. Of course, I had followed that through the years, and just in thinking about what in the world did Truman and Nelle talk about after they got through with this experience of interviewing these murderers, interviewing people in town, the whole atmosphere there in this small town where evil had not reared its head very high in the past. Then I thought, well, I'm a writer. I write along with other writers. What do we talk about? Everything you can think of. Our failures, our successes, our worries. Will we get paid? Does it matter if we get paid? How much we're going to get paid? Will something get published? Just so many things. And then personal things, too. We talk about our families. We talk about religion. We might talk about politics. We might talk about a current event going on. So I tried to put these two authors at that time period in 1960 when they were traveling after their interviews in Holcomb. They're together in a car, and it's night, and they're talking. And I'm hoping the audience will enjoy being just an ear into that conversation. Of course, we don't know every word they said, but I could sort of imagine what they said. And I come up with this play, Traveling with Truman and Nelle.
And of course, it is presented initially on July 31st at the Wetumpka Depot Players Theater and is followed August 2nd, 4th, and 13th through 15th. How well did you know these two icons?
Well, I met both of them. When Nelle Lee's book first came out, people in Monroeville had coffees for her, and Monroeville's such a small community. I was usually invited just as a newcomer in town to come and sit, and she'd sit and smoke her cigarette and drink coffee and sign books for people. And I mean, she was just Nelle. She'd never been anything else but just their friend, having grown up there. Then Capote, as it turned out, was the first cousin of some of our very dear friends in Monroeville, the Jennings Carter family. He, through the years, would entertain our family with tales of what he and Truman did as children. And then, like I had said previously, I was enjoying following their careers vicariously. I could do that with Capote, couldn't do anything with Miss Lee because she was just such a quiet, reserved person, and we know very little about her from the time she was about 35 until right before she died in Monroeville.
Marianne, how much research did you have to do to flesh out this story?
Quite a bit, because I wanted to bring as much fact as I could into it. Of course, there's plenty of material on Capote. I could use biographies on him, use his writings. And with Miss Lee, there was a lot of critique about her work. And I drew from the material that Jennings Carter gave me for my book, Truman Capote's Southern Years. So it was several years of research, and I had such a good connection with different friends who would read parts of it and tell us the truth where we need to dig deeper, and it always makes a better product when we do that. So I'm just so grateful to the Wetumpka Depot Theater for giving me this opportunity as a fairly new playwright to present this on their stage and to be so open and helpful to me.
Have you been watching rehearsals?
Oh, yes. I've tried not to miss a minute. I have loved watching Tom Salter, the director, work with our two actors, David Shelnut and Cammie Phillips, coach them and help them know where to stand, how to say, how to turn. So that's been an education in itself.
You had another play that was a hit in your native Andalusia, Alabama. Ladies of the Jury, and this goes back to a point in history. Can you give us sort of a synopsis?
This was in 1955. There was a judge who had a custody case before him. You know, women couldn't sit on a jury back then. We hadn't passed all the rights to give us entree into that. So I think he probably was worried about if he had to take this little boy away from his mother, and 12 men were going to come in and do that. I don't know if he was thinking about his next election or whether his wife was going to have to kill him when he got home. But wisely, he went out and he knew the ladies in town, and he brought 6 of them in, and he brought 6 ministers in and impaneled a jury. And he said, now, I don't have to abide by your decision, but I treasure your participation on this. So the case was presented, and the ladies of the jury deliberated with the ministers, and they produced their verdict. And I loved this story because this was hidden in a news article in the Andalusia Star News. For years, nobody paid any attention to it. Those women, they were my mother's contemporaries. It just led to my cousin and I spent hours down in the basement of the courthouse going through old papers and, of course, talked with people. They had relatives that maybe had been involved with it. Such a unusual but fun thing, because I thought, this is Andalusia. This is my hometown, and this is a first ladies of the jury.
Well, in 1953, Alabama ratified the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, and voter rolls were gradually adding women. So I hope you'll bring that play to other audiences. Meanwhile, I want to thank you for your visit today, Marianne.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for this opportunity as well.
That was playwright Marianne Weber, and her play, Traveling with Truman and Nelle, will be brought to the stage by the Wetumpka Depot Players starting July 31st and continuing in August. More information can be found at the wetumpkadepot.com website. Thanks for joining us for In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcast. And feel free to get in touch at infocus@troy.edu. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is listener-supported Troy Public Radio.